Hey guys, the topic I want to discuss with you today is on worry. You know, that inescapable attribute that all of us seem to have. We run across somebody every once in a while that doesn't seem to worry at all. Nothing gets them flustered. Nothing ruffles their feathers. Or so it seems to us. And perhaps they even tell you nothing does. But I have a feeling that even those people worry. We worry about everything. We worry about money. We worry about getting cancer, diabetes. We worry about death or how we're going to die. We worry about our kids and their futures. We worry about our futures. In fact, you name it, you throw anything out there, and we worry about it. And if it seems like something we shouldn't have anything to worry about, we're hard-pressed to not prove that we don't have to worry about it. Worry is just, it's exhausting. It haunts us day and night. It's these things that we think about. We know from all the sage advice that's out there that we're thinking about things that may possibly never happen. You know, you hear all the time that most of the stuff you worry about never happens. Well, I guess there's truth to that, but is it helping a lot of us just to know that? Maybe a little bit. But still, yet, we still are shaken sometimes, sometimes on a daily basis, or kept awake at night by things that we anticipate happening. There's a few things I've read over the years I just want to share with you that might help. That's helped me more than a lot of the other conventional wisdom that's out there. And it's at least it's put it in terms or defined it in ways that's a little more palatable, to me at least. And so I want to share those with you. And I apologize ahead of time if what I say maybe perhaps doesn't sound any different than what you've heard before. But it's helped me, and I want to pass it on to you. Now, when I was a teenager especially, I had a lot of anxiety. I mean, we all have a lot. It seems like we have a lot of anxiety all throughout our life. Isn't that right? We seem to do that. But it's different when you're a teenager because you've just gotten out of, childhood, and you're not quite an adult, and there's so much weight on you. And I mean, that's the time of life when the anticipation is just frothing. You know, you have the expectations of people older than you, perhaps your parents, of what you ought to do, and then you don't know how you're going to perform. You just don't know how you're going to survive, and you want to do your best. And even though you think you have the bull by the horns sometimes as a teenager, there's still a lot of worry, a lot of anxiety, and I've seen it in my kids. But I struggle with this a lot. You know, I've said before in a previous video a while back that my parents went through divorce. They ended up, years later, and that's something I didn't say before, but years later my parents got remarried. Or maybe not many years later, but they did end up getting remarried, and not without its struggles, but they did. But that was a very rough time in my life. And I had picked up several books, of which you might be familiar with. Most people have heard of Dale Carnegie. And he's most famous for writing How to Win Friends and Influence People. Great book. You ought to read it. Everyone should read it. It should be required reading in school. But he wrote another one that was quite popular, probably his second most popular book, maybe third, called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. Now, I'm not going to tell you everything he said in the book, and that's not going to be my sole focus. But in that book, one of the things that I remembered him talking about that really resonated with me, and that kind of just stuck with me throughout all these years, is when you're worrying about something, stop and really think about what it is you're focused on and assess everything rationally. Assess the chances of that occurring. Now, I'm probably not articulating that the way he did in the book. I really do suggest picking up the book and reading it for yourself. It'll probably be much more clear than what I'm telling you here. But in that book, he emphasized, looking at what you're afraid of and asking yourself, what are the actual chances of this occurring? And when you sit down and really rationalize your way through something, then you can do that, and then it will mitigate your worries quite a bit. And that's because worry is just very emotional, and worry is not rational at all. And so when you put aside irrationality and emotion, and just logically think about what your actual chances are of this occurring, then it does mitigate your anxiety quite a bit. Now, what it does is it makes it very realistic. It makes it easier to believe, because you still know there's a chance of these things happening or occurring. Sometimes there's no chance. And it does, and I'm telling you, if you do that and you sit there and say, well, I'm worried about driving in the rain, especially here in Florida, because it's real slick with the orange, a lot of the residue from the citrus in the area gets on the pavement, makes it real slick. But I mean, this is just an example. But if you're saying, if I know people who are afraid of driving in the rain, seems like most people in Florida. If you sit there and think about what are my chances if I drive carefully, if I keep a certain distance, and I use my blinkers, and I use my windshield wipers, and I drive real defensively, what are my actual chances of being in an accident? Well, you might say, well, maybe 10%, maybe 5%. You see, that's a whole lot better than worrying about it and going, I'm going to be in an accident. Now, that goes all across the board. You say, what are my chances of getting cancer? Well, I don't know. I guess the cancer rate, last time I read, was like 1 in 4 people. Some people never get it malignantly. I mean, or if that's the right way to put it, they never get malignant cancer. Some people, I think, from what I understand, everybody gets it. You know, it's in your body, but it's usually benign. But not everybody gets it. So what are your chances of getting it? Well, your chance of getting it might be 25%. So you sit there and go, there's a 75% chance I won't get cancer. See, that's a lot better than saying, oh my gosh, I might get cancer. I'm probably going to get cancer. There's a 75% chance that you're not going to get it. And so on and so forth. And you can do this with everything you worry about. And I will put a link in the description below for how you can get that book. And I'm going to tell you about another book that really helped me. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard of Augusten Burroughs. Augusten Burroughs is a writer, and there's been movies based on his book. There's been a movie made based on his book called Running with Scissors. And I really like Augusten Burroughs. I like the way he writes. I suggest you pick up his book called, I can't remember the whole title. I will put that in the description below also. But there's a book called This Is How. And it was how to overcome anxiety, depression, shyness, molestation, fatness, all sorts of things. His book is not about how to overcome worry, about how to overcome all sorts of things. But one of the things he said in there about worry was, don't worry about things until they actually happen. Don't worry. You don't have cancer until you do. Now, I remember him saying that in the book. You don't have cancer until you do. You're not dying until you are. You see, what that does is it puts aside your fears in the meantime to go, I'm not dying, but I'll worry about that. It's giving you permission to worry about the things that you are afraid of happening when they actually happen. So you don't worry about dying until you're actually dying. You don't worry about getting cancer until you actually get it. This also helps for when you're running late for work. You know, I don't worry about being late for work until I'm actually late. I put that off. I've done it for years, and it really, really works. Try it for yourself. Experiment with it. The last thing I have to say about worry is, understand, this is just coming from me personally, just from my own experience, understand that if what you're worrying about happens to come true, there might be a chance it could work out in your favor. It could actually be a benefit. It might give you something or expose to you something that you didn't get a chance to experience before. Understand that the very thing that you're worried about might turn out to be the greatest thing if it did happen. Okay? So think about these things. those are my thoughts for today. Those are my thoughts on worry. I hope it's helped. If you have some advice to share on this matter that you think is valuable, put it in the comments below. Perhaps I'll make another video later, and I'll mention you and maybe your solution to the problem. So anyway, I've enjoyed it, guys. I really hope it's helped. I've got to go to work, but if you've liked this video, hit the thumbs up and subscribe. And if you feel so compelled, share it with somebody, because they could probably benefit from it. All right, have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.